A letter arrives at a newspaper. It is one of 3 sent the same morning. One to the Chronicle, one to the San Francisco Examiner, one to the Vallejo Times-Herald. Each envelope contains 2 things: a page of typed confession to 3 murders, and a separate block of symbols. Together, the 3 blocks form a single message, 408 symbols across 3 pages. The letter writer tells the newspapers he has written them in code, and that the code contains his identity. He signs it with a circle and a crosshair, the way a rifle scope looks from the wrong end. That last cipher, 13 symbols sent the following spring, has never been opened. It is the question the case has never answered. 3 newspapers receive the same demand: print the cipher on your front page, or I will kill again. All 3 print it. The man who calls himself the Zodiac had already killed at least 4 people by then. 2 couples shot in parked cars near Vallejo, California in December 1968 and July 1969. He described the killings in the confessional pages that accompanied the cipher. He knew details only the shooter would know. Every major police department in the Bay Area had the cipher by August 4th. The NSA looked at it. Cryptanalysts at military and government agencies reviewed it. Nobody cracked it in a week. Then, on August 8th, a high school teacher in Salinas named Donald Harden and his wife Betty sold it in under a week at their kitchen table. Betty Harden started with a hunch. A man who writes about killing probably uses the word kill somewhere in the first line. She began searching the cipher for a 5-letter repeating pattern, specifically a sequence where the first and 4th symbols were identical, the way K-I-L-L-I would look if the letter I recurred. She found a candidate sequence, a symbol cluster near the top of the first page where a backward triangle appeared at positions 1 and 4. She mapped it to K-I-L-L-I and built outward from that assumption. If the backward triangle was I, what did that make every other symbol adjacent to it? The first test failed. The letters cascading from that anchor produced strings that looked like no English word. She reset the assumption, kept the triangle as I, and tried a different position for the K. The second attempt held. A recognizable word emerged in the second line. Not the full plaintext, but enough to confirm the anchor was right. It was a homophonic substitution cipher, meaning the Zodiac had assigned multiple different symbols to common letters to prevent easy frequency analysis. One letter, like E, might be represented by 4 or 5 different symbols rotated to prevent any single character from appearing too often. A straight frequency count would show nothing useful. The Hardens had to rebuild the entire alphabet from inside the message, letter by letter, each confirmed symbol unlocking the next. When the plaintext finally assembled itself across the page, it read nothing like what a police profile would have predicted. The 408 ended with the Zodiac claiming his victims would become his slaves in the afterlife, and promising that the last 18 symbols of the message contained his name. The Hardens sent their solution to the San Francisco Chronicle. Police verified it. The 18 symbols at the end were examined carefully. They spelled nothing recognizable. Either the Zodiac had lied, or that portion of the cipher operated under a key no one has ever found. The Zodiac claimed in his letters to have killed 37 people. Law enforcement has confirmed 5 murders and 2 survivors. The confirmed attacks spanned 10 months. 2 couples were shot in parked cars outside Vallejo, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen on Lake Herman Road in December 1968, Michael Mageau and Darlene Ferrin at Blue Rock Springs Park in July 1969. Ferrin died within the hour. Mageau survived. Then, on the afternoon of September 27, 1969, 2 college students were attacked at Lake Berryessa. Tied with rope the attacker had brought with him, stabbed repeatedly. Brian Hartnell survived. Cecilia Shepard did not. The attacker left a note on the door of Hartnell's car, the date, the names Blue Rock Springs and Lake Herman Road, and a crosshair drawn in felt pen. Less than 3 weeks later, on October 11th, a San Francisco cab driver named Paul Stein was shot once in the head.
At the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets in Presidio Heights. Witnesses in a second-floor window across the street watched the attacker wipe down the cab's interior with a cloth before walking north into the Presidio. A piece of Stein's shirt arrived at the Chronicle days later, enclosed in a new letter. Proof of purchase. The gap between 5 and 37 has never been explained. The Zodiac may have inflated the number to amplify fear. He may have killed people whose cases were never connected to him. Both remain possible, and neither has been ruled out. 3 serious theories have anchored the investigation for decades, and in each one, the ciphers either complicate the suspect or fail to confirm him. The first centers on Arthur Lee Allen, a former schoolteacher from Vallejo, who was investigated by the Vallejo Police Department and the San Francisco Police Department for years. In August 1971, investigators searched his trailer and found, among other things, a Zodiac Seawolf wristwatch. The crosshair symbol the killer used as his signature was also the logo printed on its face. Witnesses placed Allen near 2 attack sites. A survivor, Michael Mageau, identified him from a photograph lineup decades later. His handwriting, however, did not match the letters. His fingerprints did not match prints recovered from envelopes. In 2002, DNA extracted from saliva on the envelope flaps of 3 Zodiac letters was compared against Allen's known profile. The results excluded him. Allen had died in 1992, 10 years before the results came back. The second theory holds that the Zodiac was not a single person, that at least some of the later letters and ciphers were written by a copycat attempting to extend the case. Handwriting analysts who examined the full correspondence have reached conflicting conclusions. Some find a consistent authorial hand across all letters. Others identify measurable differences in letter formation and spacing between the early letters and those written after 1970, differences they interpret as a different writer, rather than the same person aging or varying his style deliberately. The third theory is narrower and more recent, that the Zodiac's cipher construction points to specific technical training or deliberate study of historical cryptography, that the choice of homophonic substitution was not a random invention, but a system borrowed from cipher history. The Zodiac noted after solving the 340 that certain structural choices in the Zodiac ciphers suggest the author had studied historical cipher systems rather than improvised his own. The counter-evidence is the construction itself. The 340 cipher contains structural errors, inconsistencies in the symbol assignments that a formally trained cryptographer would not have made. Someone who studied ciphers from books rather than from instruction, stopping before the discipline became second nature. No theory has closed the case. The Zodiac has never been charged.
3 months after the 408 was solved, the Zodiac sent a second cipher, 340 symbols, to the San Francisco Chronicle. Every technique the Hardens had used on the first cipher failed on this one. The directional reading order that had worked on the 408 produced nothing. Frequency mapping produced nothing. Professional cryptographers, military analysts, and hobbyist codebreakers spent decades on it. The cipher became one of the most publicly worked problems in the history of amateur cryptanalysis. David Oranchak had been working on the 340 since 2006. 14 years of partial progress and dead ends. In late 2020, he was working with 2 collaborators, Sam Blake, a mathematician in Melbourne, and Jarl van Eyck, a Belgian software developer who had built a custom cipher-solving program, AZ Decrypt, capable of brute-forcing thousands of symbol arrangements per second. What finally broke it was not more processing power. It was a realization about direction. The Zodiac had not only scrambled the letter-to-symbol assignments, he had written the message in an unusual read order, mixing left to right, right to left, and diagonal sequences within the same block. The 408 had read in a standard Boustrophedon pattern. The 340 used something more irregular, and every analyst who had approached it assuming a consistent direction had been reading a false surface. When Van Eyck fed the 340 into AZ Decrypt using the correct read sequence, legible text surfaced on the screen on December 5th, 2020. 51 years of work. 3 amateur researchers at home computers. The message contained no name, no location, no confession to additional crimes. It was a taunt, written apparently to be solved eventually, just not right away. The FBI confirmed the solve on December 11th, 2020. 2 ciphers solved. 2 others have never been. The 32-symbol cipher, sent in November 1969, alongside a letter in which the Zodiac described a bomb he claimed to have built from stolen dynamite and car parts, presents a specific technical problem. It is short enough that even a correct solution cannot be independently verified. There is no way to confirm you have the right key unless the plaintext is unambiguous, and 32 symbols leave too many plausible readings. 3 proposed solutions have circulated since 1969. They produce 3 different sets of words. All 3 have been argued in print. None have been authenticated. Then there is the 13-symbol cipher, sent in April 1970. 13 characters. The Zodiac wrote in the letters accompanying it that this cipher contained his name. If it is a homophonic substitution cipher like the 408, the key space is too large to exhaust by brute force. A shorter message provides less statistical data, which means fewer patterns to anchor a solution. Every assumption has to be tested against a message that offers almost nothing in return. One team attempted to apply the directional transposition insight that unlocked the 340. They mapped every plausible read order against a homophonic key and ran the combinations through AZ Decrypt. The software found no output it could score as legible English. Either the cipher uses a different system entirely, or the key is too short to produce a statistically distinguishable solution from noise. Every major suspect ever named in the case has been run against the 13-symbol cipher. Researchers have attempted to fit Arthur Lee Allen's full name, his initials, and variants of other suspects' names to the 13 characters using every known cipher system the Zodiac demonstrably used. None have produced a confirmed match. The identity behind the crosshair signature has never been established. The 13-symbol cipher still sits in the Zodiac's letters, 13 characters wide, in an alphabet only one person ever knew. A homophonic substitution cipher produces what cryptographers call a false surface. Every character looks meaningful, every symbol suggests a letter, but without the key, the message and the noise are indistinguishable. That is where the Zodiac case has rested for more than 50 years. A killer who wrote to newspapers, a cipher that took 51 years to solve and said nothing worth the wait. A name, possibly, in 13 characters that have never opened. The case is officially open. Thank you for watching this far. It genuinely means something. If a story like this is why you're here, hit subscribe. We open a new file every few days.